All right, can you hear me? I'm assuming you can, since I can hear myself over here in this other room. That was so beautiful, to just listen to that, and I wish that I had heard that some years ago, because sometimes you're uncertain about the conversation that you're having with who, and as you hear it coming back to you, I mean, it is kind of daunting. How do I know that this is really me? How do I know that this is really prayer? How do I know any of this? And it's beautiful, the way Lynn put that, and I truly appreciate it. And just wish I had heard it a number of years ago. You guys, I'm so happy to be here. It's my Tuesday night. I am broadcasting on Ustream as well as here on Pal Talk. Last week I was having I was having such a time last week, and I'm just grateful that I'm here today. I'm posted up in my usual spot, and I have a fan on me. And hopefully, since the weather has gotten much better than it was, hopefully I won't have the meltdown that I had last week. A friend of mine said, he said, I just wanted to take you and wring you out. And it was so hot last week. I mean, we got up to 100 one day, and for Cleveland, that's unusual. And I was just so blessed that I was able to make it through all of that drama. I've got my course book here, and you guys, I'll be perfectly honest with you. Um, this morning when I woke up, before I went to bed last night, I set my intentions and asked for a message about what I was going to talk about. And when I woke up this morning, surprisingly, because I took some allergy medicine, surprisingly, I slept all through the night. And by the time I woke up and I was thinking to myself, I didn't wake up at all during the night, which is really unusual for me. And I woke up and I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't know that I got a message. And I'm thinking, I didn't have a dream. I can't recall anything. And I kept thinking to myself, what am I supposed to talk about? And just as I was getting out of the bed, I heard the in my head, I heard that voice say, the symbol of Christmas. And I thought, wow, really? And we're in July, Christmas in July. So I'm going to talk a bit about that, but I'm also going to go with whatever Spirit gives to me in this moment, because that is really how it is all supposed to play out. That Spirit talks to me and speaks to me, uses me, and flows through me at every moment of every day. And so if I'm open and receptive to receiving, that is what I'll be talking about. So thank you, Dove. Christmas as the end of sacrifice. Text, in the text, it is in chapter 15, and I do believe section 11. So we'll be talking about that in just a bit. Um, it is interesting because last week I talked a little bit about the idea that everything everything that we're going through, we're there to grow through, and it is simply for us to learn, and all of our lessons is just for you, or just for me, or just for the person that you are. That lesson is for you. And then we've got all these other people out here who are really there to help us to learn these lessons. And they're busy, even though we don't know that they're pointing back at us, they are really about us learning better who we are and what we're here to do. So, having said that, I'm so profoundly interested in all the insights that come up for me, and probably for you too, as we go throughout the week. Um, and and it's so interesting because I listen to several different people throughout the week, and as I listen, I'm constantly amazed at how things affect me, and how it all correlates together. It's almost as if in the process of you going through your week, it's almost as if you get confirmation every step of the way. Like, yes, this is the way you're supposed to go. Yes, this is what you're supposed to see. Yes, this is what you're supposed to say. And all those things. And so when we're open and receptive to Spirit speaking to us all the time, then we get exactly that. So this past week, I heard somebody else quote from the introduction of the Course in Miracles. And if you've ever heard me before, you know I love the introduction of the Course in Miracles. It's found right in the front of the book, right in nestled, I always like to say, behind the table of contents. And it's basically one paragraph. And it says, this is a Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does, however, aim at removing the blocks to your awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all encompassing can have no opposites. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way: nothing real can be threatened, and nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Ooh, when I say that, when I hear it, when I think about it, I get so empowered and so energized. And I won't talk about the introduction that much. But when I think about this idea of removing the blocks to my awareness of love's presence, which is my natural inheritance, I get so excited because, you know, so many times the person that is blocking the awareness to love's presence is me. It's not somebody else, it's not something else, it's me. And the moment that I choose to see, how can I see love in this situation? How can I choose love in this situation? I'm automatically answered, and I get what it is that I'm searching for. And so today, when I started thinking about the lesson that I wanted to talk about, that section on the symbol of Christmas, I thought it's no different. So I opened up my book and give me one second. I did. I have a bookmark right there in the page. And I turned it to the page, and as I looked at it, I thought, you know, I pulled out my Course in Miracles concordance, and I looked it up. I saw that it was Christmas, and Christmas was in this chapter, chapter number 15. And I opened it up, and of course, look at my own highlights before I reread the chapter. And it said, the sign of Christmas is a star, a light in the darkness. The sign of Christmas is a star, a light in the darkness. You know, when I thought about that, I thought about it in the sense that that star in the light of darkness was what the wise men, according to the story, followed. And they followed this star to, um, it was over the area. It led them to the place where the baby Jesus was born. And when you think about the star in the darkness, you guys, I have to share this story with you because I got it a couple of weeks ago, and or was reminded of it a couple of weeks ago and didn't share it then. And I know that sometimes I block my own good. I always block my own good when I don't do or act according to what Spirit tells me to do. So I'll tell you about this little story. It's actually a true story. My family is from Mississippi originally, from Raymond, Mississippi. You know, my family is great. And my father's from Raymond, my mother's from McGee. And every year, I don't want to say it was like punishment, because it wasn't. But every year we would go down to Mississippi to visit my grandfather, my great grandmother, whoever. And in this one particular occasion, we had gone down. I'm not exactly sure what was going on, but I'm there with all of my cousins. My cousins are fabulous. And we've got all these first cousins because there were so many in my father's family. My mother was an only child, but my father had quite a big family. And so all of my cousins were there, and we wanted to go out. We wanted to do something and not just sit out there on the farm and watch the grass grow or the chickens. So we set out to find us something to do. And we headed up the road, and Raymond, at the time, they call it a suburb now of Jackson. But at the time, Raymond was just country, country, country. And I don't know if you know about country, but it's country. And they stayed out on this road called Snake Creek Road. And so, we decided we were setting out to find something to do. So we headed up Snake Creek Road, and Snake Creek Road is this long, winding road with not much on it. I mean, my grandparents had a lot of land, and so, you had to walk for ways to get past their land and still walk further still. So that particular night, we're out, and, we find this, we go find this thing that was like a juke joint is what we called it. It was kind of like a bar, but not quite a bar because we were young and we could go in. And when you go in, it's a shack basically. And I don't know if you saw that movie Whoopi Goldberg did, where they used to go back out in the woods and party in this little shack. It was a juke joint with a jukebox in there, and you can buy bottles of Coca-Cola or Orange Crush or something like that. And so all of us cousins, my sisters and brothers and our cousins, we got in there, and oh my goodness, talk about have a time. We were putting quarters in the jukebox and playing music and dancing and just all of this stuff. And it was just phenomenal. I mean, we were having the time of our lives in this little juke joint with just family around, just the young folks, and we were partying down. Well, we partied, and after a while, we decided, well, we better be getting back. Now, this is the real point of the story. We decided we'd better be getting back. So I don't know if you've ever been, okay, and so this is Lynn that said she had been in South Carolina, so you know what I'm talking about when I tell you this. When we decided to leave out, we walked out into this area that was not it wasn't a parking lot. It was more like packed down dirt. And we walked out, and the further we get from this little juke joint, the less we were able to see. Now, I don't know if you know about Mississippi dark, country dark, but in the country, when it's dark. I mean, you can't even see the hand in front of your face dark. And so, we're coming out of there and we're doing this ease on down the road kind of thing, thinking we're having fun until all of a sudden we realize it's dark. So when we realize it's dark, it's like, oh my God. So at first it's funny, but then it's like we're all of a sudden, all of us are starting to panic. It's like, oh my goodness, because we literally can't see the hands in front of our faces. And so we started to swing out. You know how you start to bat out in front of you and you're talking to each other and you're kind of giggling and it's funny. But now all of a sudden it's panicky because we're trying to make sure that we've got everybody. So we needed to now count off, like, okay, Pam, you're one, I'm two, Herm, you're three, and we're starting to give out numbers to everybody to make sure that we had our group all together. And then we needed to join hands and create a rope because as we were walking, we noticed that as we walked, We weren't even staying on the road. I mean, it's a road. It's a road, a country road, and we've got to go a country mile. And then as the road, because it's the Snake Creek Road, it's kind of a winding road. And so if we weren't careful, we would basically walk straight off of the road. Now, polecats, bobcats, I don't know what they're called, but we were hearing all kinds of sounds. There's no light. There's no way to tell where the heck we're going, just that we're supposed to go. It's like, oh my God, talk about fear. I mean, it was so crazy. We have, yeah, what we have now is we have a lot of street light pollution because, here we have street lights everywhere, but there are street lights nowhere. And without the stars or the moon to guide your way, you're totally in darkness, and darkness like you've never seen before. So we've now counted off, we've checked, and we're checking in with one another, and we're like feeling out in front of us, trying to make sure that we've got everybody. Now, you know that there's always going to be somebody who's going to be the clown and not necessarily say, I'm here. But now, could you imagine what would happen if somebody had fell off in a ditch, or if something had happened to any one of us and you can't find them because it's so dark outside? I mean, it was a scary sensation. So a lot of times when I am thinking about, the whole dynamic of what I experienced that night, I think about how important it is, this thing of giving voice, of reaching out, of being a guide, of helping somebody else out. I think about all those things in this walk of life and how that was a metaphor for what it is that we do on a daily basis. You guys, I don't know if you necessarily feel the the sensation or the panic that you would feel if you did not have a voice to speak. This voice to say, "Are you there?" And then somebody to reach out their hand to you in the midst of the darkness and say, I'm here. And so when I think about this story of Christmas and the star shining in the darkness, that light in the darkness, that beacon that is drawing you and telling you, come forth, that whole thing is such a powerful image to me because I know how intense, how deep, how how I understand this idea about darkness. Now, before I before I move off of the topic of darkness, I want to put it in a different way. I'm fond of saying that, we are light. You are the light of the world. You are light. You are energy. You have a life force about you. I mean, you have been imbued with, breathed into your lungs this breath, this life force, this energy that is you, right? And so when you think about that and you think about darkness, I heard a long time ago somebody said that darkness is not an entity of itself. Darkness is simply the absence of light. It's the absence of that energy. It is the void that we exist in, but yet and still is not away from or absent of God. And so when you think about, this whole thing about the darkness, that the sign of Christmas is a star in the darkness, see it not outside of yourself, but shining from the heaven that is within you. There is this beacon that is always calling you forth, that is drawing you and saying, The real place, the real space where you are is within you. And all these other distractions that are outside of you are distracting you, but really pointing towards that inward journey that we all must take. That inward journey that says, let us remove the blocks to our awareness of love's presence. Even with the sunshine, we think about that the sun is shining all the time but there is things that come up and block your awareness of the sunshine. It blocks the light that you see. Those clouds, they'll drift on by eventually, but they're just blocking what is real and true. That sun that is you. I love the way all of this works because it is reinforcing over and over again that you are the light, that light that you are shines, it comes from within you. It's not outside of you. So, as I started thinking about this, I started thinking about it because it says further down, you who believe that sacrifice is love must learn that sacrifice is separation from love. Um, so, if I talk about the special relationships that we have, oh, she's so sweet. Lynn is just such a doll. It's like having a cheerleader. Yay, Lynn! um, I so appreciate you. But when we think about this idea of sacrifice, Christmas as the end of sacrifice, I started thinking about what we think about relationships and relationships in general. You guys, we come up in a society and in places that tell us that our relationships are these exclusive little torture chambers that we enter into with one other person. They're not about our freedom at all, not about our expressions of love at all, but rather emotional torture chambers that say, as long as you do what I want you to do, we're good. You know, as long as you are where I ask you to be, when I ask you to be there, and not talking to or being involved with other people, those other beings that I see out there, we're good. But the moment something else creeps in, we want to talk about, how you did me wrong. Without sacrifice, without sacrifice, there must love be. It's so interesting because we want people to sacrifice for us as if sacrifice proves somehow that they love us, that they are in love with us. And so we ask over and over again sacrifices of other people. And it's no wonder because growing up, we learned that to have a walk with God, to be in spirit, to be with God was to sacrifice. It meant that you had to give up everything that was joyful and wonderful. I mean, if you're talking about, if I'm talking about the religion that I practiced or that I studied before, it was always calling for me to give up something that was really near and dear to me, my happiness or what I thought would make me happy at the time. So if it was, I remember the preacher used to talk about the things that you couldn't do, call us sinners, and talk about all the ways that we were wrong. I remember those things. And I remember thinking that there was the chosen people, and then there was those of us who were still trying to get in, as if God was this exclusive club. And if you didn't walk right, if you didn't do something right, then God didn't want you in heaven. And so there was this like narrow road that we had to go down. There was this constant feeling of not making the cut, of not being good enough, of God frowning upon fun, of God not necessarily want. So rather than this being a kingdom that was open and welcoming and loving. We got the impression that, God just really didn't want you. And if you didn't necessarily walk the straight and narrow, you'd be left out of the mix. And so, for a lot of us, that was the God that we grew up knowing. And to some extent, that's still the God that some people worship today. That there's this narrow way, this chosen for you. And if you are not among that, if you're not doing right, if somehow you're doing something wrong, then you're not going to get into the kingdom of heaven. That's the thing that we've been, raised to believe, that somehow you were born into sin, that Eve ate of the doggone apple, and so, buddy, you better figure it out or else you're going to be left behind. But now imagine coming across the course, and the course speaking of a God that we no longer have to be afraid of, and saying that the opposite of love is fear, right? But what is all encompassing can have no opposites. So it also says that this thing is total. So if love is total, and yet we believe that we must fear God, then love and God must be in two separate spaces according to what we learned in other religions. That fear and love are an oxymoron rather than this idea that we grew up with, that you had to fear God, and that God had this wrath, and God was really trying to keep you out of the kingdom, and you were trying to be busy trying to figure out how to get in there. And then we come to the course, and it's telling us that we are asked to do nothing, that sacrifice is not required, that sacrifice, when we're sacrificing, that's not love. I mean, that turns the whole perception of what we thought love was on its head. I mean, so now I'm looking and I'm thinking to myself, like, wow, really? How can I? And here's the thing: how can we really trust a God, in God? And I don't mean to say a God, because it all is God. I mean, it's in God. The thing itself, or this substance that we know of God to be all there is, this universe, this universal presence, right? How can we really love and appreciate God if we're so caught up in fearing God, or in our fear of God? I mean, so if that is the case, how can we really get into the kingdom if we're constantly thinking that the kingdom is there excluding us? Heaven is all about, if that's what we're thinking, that heaven is all about exclusion. Thank you for putting this in big old print. There are many opposites to love: fear, wrath, jealousy, all those attributes religion give to their gods. All of those things that you just mentioned are reducible to fear. Jealousy is fear that I'm not good enough, or that I'm not enough, or that I'll lose this person. Wrath is fear that we're being punished. I mean, all of those things are reducible to that one thing, that is fear. And so when it says that the opposite of love is fear, but most of us grew up learning that we're supposed to fear God, and that God is fearful, and that God is really not wanting you or trying to exclude you or something else, when we grow up thinking that, it's hard for us to do this about face that is required to really get in and to embrace and know that God is loving you just as you are, and you need do nothing. And so I started thinking about this as I was looking at it, And I kept thinking to myself, you know, that what I've learned all along is so much opposite to what the Course is teaching me. So if it's telling me that now you who believe that sacrifice is love must learn that sacrifice is separation for love. For sacrifice brings guilt as surely as love brings peace. Guilt is a condition of sacrifice, as peace is a condition for the awareness of your relationship with God. So when you think about that, how do you know when it's God talking to you? Like when Lynn was talking earlier, how do you know? It's like the peace comes accompanied with that message. I mean, there is a peace in your soul, a peace that you feel that comes over you. There is not this fear, fear of being excluded, of being left out. And it says in here that the whole kingdom will wait until you get the clue, until you understand. Take as long as you like. Well, though we wanted to be quick. Take as long as you like, but the kingdom is here and it would be bereft without you. And so here is where we'll wait until you get the clue. Through peace, you invite them back, realizing that they were where your invitation bid them be. What you exclude from yourself seems fearful, for you endow it with fear and try to cast it out, though it is part of you. Who can perceive part of himself as loathsome and live within himself in peace? So, you guys, it is so amazing because we have bastardized ourselves. I mean, it's as if I don't want that part of me. I don't want this part of me. I remember when I went overseas, I was going overseas to study, going to school. And on the plane ride there, I remember thinking to myself that when I go to this new country, people there won't know me. And I can be anybody I choose to be. And that's the thought I was having. And so I started thinking about all the parts of me and my personality that I was just going to carve out, that I was going to choose to leave on that plane as I unboarded off the plane. So, there was a whole bunch of stuff personality wise that I was going to get rid of. I had to take my big old thighs with me and, my busty self. I had to take all of my voluptuous nature with me. But there was these other parts I was thinking to myself, I'm gonna leave those behind because you know what, they don't serve me. And I wanna be, goody two shoes like these other girls over here. I wanna be, I kept thinking to myself, like, I want to change my personality. I want to change this. I want to change that. It was so funny because I was like, all of a sudden, I started thinking to myself, like, all this stuff about me that I didn't like at the time. And, I think a lot of times we all go through those stages at some point in our life where we're trying to, get rid of pieces of ourselves that, it's just like really, but at a certain point you start to think to yourself like, wow, I don't even know where I got the clue at. I don't know if it was, um, through it may have all started on that journey when I got a copy of Marianne Williamson's book, A Return to Love, and and started reading some stuff that I thought was really profound, like really I throw away my own good before somebody else can take it away from me. Really? Is that what I do? Maybe that is what I do. And so I started thinking to myself like, well, maybe I'm not so bad. I mean, let me think about this for a minute. There are some good things about me. I started thinking, and I started thinking, oh, well, maybe that's what's special about me. Maybe this wild personality that I'm busy, kind of cursing and kind of putting down is not such a bad thing. Because to some extent, I was like a lot of people, and in the sense that you, know, I was thinking to myself, oh, I can even use my sister for an example. My sister is such a goody two shoes. She was everybody loved her. And I was the bad girl. I was really the bad girl. And so there was a part of me that even in that, me having fun, me being the bad girl, I had my judgments about it because I got in trouble all the time. And so there was parts of me that I just, I was like, well, these get me in trouble. And so I don't know that I like them necessarily, but it was me. And it was all those things that made up this person that I am. And so at a certain point, I started thinking to myself, like, maybe I'm not so bad after all. Maybe I am the way I am, and this is how I'm supposed to be. And so it took a bit before I got to this clue that, Sandra's not so bad, and started to embrace that. Let me read these posts right quick, and then I can go on with my chattering. That's an interesting thought. Throw away your own good before someone else takes it from you. Yeah, Miriam Williamson said, nobody has to, a bully doesn't have to come along and take your candy. You even before the bully gets there to tell you what he wants, she was like, you just throw it down and, and run off even before they say what they want. So, yeah, there is that part that is, that we throw away our own good before somebody else takes it. It's funny. Okay, so I'm going to be me. I'm going to be Sandra, and I'll speak my truth, doggone it. And since I've already told you about me not owning certain parts of me, and plus I heard I keep repeating over and over again what David Hoffmeister said: no people pleasing. And then there's that part in here in the book that says no private thoughts. So I'll tell you guys this. I had this girlfriend that I used to hang out with, and she was love her to death. Love her to death. She is, although she doesn't talk to me anymore, not because of anything that I did, but she just doesn't talk to me anymore. We haven't talked in years. But I just used to love the depth of our sharing, our conversations, and everything. She was a Scorpio woman, and I get along well with Scorpios. For the most part, I'm a Pisces. Anyway, that's sort of a side point to the story. But she was a real thin woman, model thin, and I used to think she was gorgeous. But she used to always think that all the guys that she dated would just absolutely fall in love with me when they met me. And so, who's listening to this? So anyway, one particular time, I remember she had this guy that she was dating, and she brought him over to that my house, and she stands in the kitchen. He's sitting there at the table, and we're all having a good time. And she says to him, "You know what? Let's just get this out of the way. I know you want to sleep with Sandy, so why don't we just go ahead and make this happen?" And I was simply mortified. I thought, oh my God, what? And I just met this man 30 minutes before this. And how could you say that? I'm like totally floored. But when you think about this idea of somebody just throwing away their own good even before she had a clue that that was going to come up or anything else like that, her own insecurity said to her that I need to go ahead and facilitate this because she knows at some point it's going to be an issue. And I'm thinking, there is no way. And but it wasn't the first time or the last time that an issue came up like that. But a lot of times, we have this thing that we think we're not quite good enough, like we never quite measure up. And so we're always trying to throw away something, oh, that's not the job for me. That's not the position for me. That's not the person for me. Because in our own minds, we're thinking we've already thought that we're not good enough. That's an attack thought that we have. And I'm saying we because I don't know, maybe we've grown through that. If we're honest with ourselves at some point in time, we might have thought that about something or some situation. But we throw away our own stuff before somebody else has a chance to come up and say, hey, give me that. I've had girlfriend. I had a girlfriend that turned down a job, a fantasy job, simply because she already judged herself not to be worthy of it. Somebody comes up to you and says to you, wow, I really want you as part of my team, as part of this or part of that. And you say, you know what, I'm not good enough, and I really don't want you to stick around me long enough to know that I'm not good enough. And so I'll basically tell you or let you know beforehand that I'm not quite good enough. I'm not quite there, and do it anyway. So I've seen that, and even here's the funny thing is even if I thought that, I don't know that I would verbalize it, and so yeah, there is that thing of me thinking that I wanted to disown parts of me, um, disown things about myself, and until I realized, that it was all good, that that this is who I am, until I really learned to love myself, which is a journey that many of us are taking. And I don't know that it's in the course, that little booklet that comes along with the course. The Dove will probably tell me if he's listening, but they say that religion or spirituality and psychology at its highest are one and the same. And so really this is a course in learning ourselves, of loving ourselves, and getting to that spot where we where we where we self accept, if nothing else. Okay, I'm going to read you. And why do we tend to feel these negative thoughts about ourselves? Because we think God rejected us. That's why we tend to think these things. It seems that it's much easier to think negative than it is to think positive. Yeah, um, it's okay, Doug. That's okay. It's not that important. Um, but yeah, I mean, we have a tendency to think that we were rejected. We reject before we even, before anybody has the opportunity to reject us, because we think that's what we've learned that God has done to us. And that's what we see outpictured, we think, in our experiences all the time. And so we throw away our own good. So I realize I'm getting short on time, so let me stop. I'm just rattling on because I think that there is insight and a message in all that we say. The war against ourselves, yeah, is in text number 23. I was talking about in the supplemental guide, in the one where it said that at its highest, spirituality um, and what did I say? That spirituality and psychology are one and the same at its highest. But I think that was in the little, whatever the little book is called. I don't know. Whatever. I'm not going to get stuck on that. So let me go on for a second, because I think that there is something else in this section that I really wanted to um, read to you. The meaning of love. I'm going on in that chapter, in that section. The meaning of love lies in what you have cast outside of yourself, and it has no meaning apart from you. It is what you prefer to keep that has no meaning, while all that you would keep away holds all the meaning of the universe and holds the universe together in its meaning. Unless the universe be joined in you, it would be apart from God, and to be without Him is to be without meaning. Ooh. So, you know, we're always thinking that it's about all this other stuff. that it's about the stuff. And really it's all about you. You are of what is of value. And a lot of times we get it confused. We think it's something else. We think it's the trappings, whether it's the car or the house. I was talking to somebody, a friend of mine came in town, and we were talking, and he kept asking me questions about what people did for a living, or about titles. And he also asked me about where somebody lived, like their zip code, as if that had anything to do with the intrinsic value of a person. And I kept thinking to myself as I sat there, and I kept thinking to myself, I don't know. That's what I was telling them. I don't know. I got friends. I have no clue what they do, because it's really like, it's not really vital to the relationship or the friendship that I know what they do. And so as he kept talking about this, I kept thinking to myself, all that stuff doesn't add value to anybody. It doesn't add meaning. It doesn't add worth. It's just stuff that we have. And so often we think we get confused about who we really are as people and where our value lies. And so sometimes it's up to us to reach into that darkness when people are totally caught up in this idea that all that stuff is who they are and where their value lies. To reach in from the darkness, to reach out and say, I'm here, and to pull them to the light. And that's to some extent what I feel like I do when we speak, when we call out in the midst of the darkness and say, you're more than that you are valued, that you are part of this sonship, and that we absolutely need you. And so I'm always just amazed at some of the things that some of the ways that we talk, some of the ways that we do. You have never been apart from God, and no matter what you hear in different places, God loves you absolutely. Um, you are loved absolutely. This whole thing, God is operating and using you. They host to God. You are host to God. You are host to God. You are host to God. So I love the way. What is her name? Um, not that it's relevant, but for some reason I want to call her name. She said that we are the lensing point of God consciousness here on earth. Jean Houston said that. Jean Houston said that we are the lensing point of God consciousness here on earth. So if I look at it, that God is using me, using my hands, using my voice, using my feet, using my presence, just like we did in the midst of that darkness, to reach out and say, hey, I'm here, to touch one another and to help one another make it down that dark path together. If that is our purpose, if that's what we're doing here, use your hands, use your mouth, use your whatever it is to reach out. I mean, that is what love does. Love is beyond the blocks that you put up there. Even once because I erect blocks, I know. I put up blocks no matter what they are. I think in my mind sometimes, I put up blocks against the love that other folks try to give me. And that to some extent is what we do with those titles and zip codes and all that other stuff. We put up blocks to loving, thinking that somehow people have to measure up, when rather than saying that just as you are, your intrinsic value is not based on that. But we beat each other down. We beat each other down with this concept of God that we've learned, We beat each other down with with our with our perception about the trappings that people are supposed to have, about value and about worth. And so we walk around and we wonder why people are missing that light in their eyes, that spring in their step, that joy in their life, that peace. And they're missing that because they're still walking in the darkness and nobody is reaching out to them and saying to them, come here, that you matter, that I can't get into heaven without you. That it is true that we get in because we take somebody with us two by two. If it's true that loving and 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 all that stuff, if it's true that being salvation or salvation is a collaborative venture, if it's true that I actually need my brother, then why not reach out? Yeah, I can change my mind. I can know the truth. I can know this. But in the midst of that darkness, I'll tell you, just because somebody changed their mind and said to me, Sandra, I'm thinking you towards me, I needed you to talk to me, baby. I needed you to reach out a hand. I needed you to pull me because sometimes that darkness seems so deep that we can't see how to get past it. And so that to some extent is the wonderful, beautiful thing about ACIM Gather Radio. And Doug, bless your heart, thank you so much. And I mean, it's this light in the midst of the darkness that reaches out and says to people, there is another way of thinking, another way of seeing, and that you are absolutely loved. And it matters. It matters. I know eventually we'll all get it. Eventually we'll all be there in that place in heaven. We all will be. But it matters right now. It matters right now when you need somebody to reach out to you. It matters. Okay. This world has been so conditioned by religion, media, etc. It really is a long road back to your true self, or it seems so anyway from my perspective. Yes, it does. And so at a certain point, we'll change our mind. So the Prince of Peace was born to reestablish the condition of love by teaching that communication remains unbroken even if the body is destroyed, provided that you see not the body as the necessary means of communication. And you know what? And that's what gets me too, is that some people are so caught up on, yeah, Jesus and the crucifixion and all that stuff. He said this is the last useless journey. You need not take that anymore. It's been accomplished. Yes, it has been accomplished. And then this idea that communication is takes place even beyond the body. So yes, I can think. Yes, I can connect with you with my mind. Yes, I know that vibrationally I can feel you. I can get in there with you. Yes, I know all those things. But still, I have a voice to speak, and while I have this voice, what is missing is always what I felt to bring. So let me use my voice right here until voice is no more necessary, until I can't speak to you anymore. Let me connect in my heart space. Let me connect in your dreams. But until that is no longer dead, communication continues. Let us join in celebrating peace and demanding no sacrifice of anyone, for so you offer me the love I offer you. And so, yeah, you guys, it is so wonderful when we start to recognize the powerful beings that we are. Yeah, trust, truth, all of those things. The happy outcome is certain. Yes, it is so certain. And so all of this is so true. Um, and eventually, yes, we will all get where we're supposed to be. And while I have a voice, I'll keep using my voice. While you have a voice, you'll keep using your voice. If nothing else but to remind our brothers that they have never been outside of God's love. To sort of correct that thinking that they have been given that tells them that they're not good enough, to tell them that God rejected them, that He made this narrow path and so many people, and that they're simply, that's the conditioning that we have been raised up under. And that's what we have to correct. And that's why we do what we do. That's why I am among the ministers of God. That's why we are all here loving and holding that light out, shining that light forth, and saying, yes, come, come, come. I give to you the Holy Spirit as part of myself. I give to you the Holy Spirit as part of myself. I know that you will be released unless I want to use you to imprison myself. Let me say that again. I know that you will be released unless I want to use you to imprison myself. You know, it's wonderful. Carolyn Miss put in her book, she said that there is the person that is the jailer, and there is those that are jailed. The prisoner is in a prison, but she said, but the jailer himself has to be there in order to make sure he doesn't get out. So really, it's not just one person that is in prison. It's not one person that is in jail. It's the both of you. And so by the energy that we send out, our intentions, all of that stuff, we trap each other. We basically suffer the same energy that we put out. The jailer and the person that we're putting in jail. So if I'm imprisoning you, it's not necessarily you that I'm imprisoning, but myself, because there is an energy cost to that. And so I need to, in order to, oh, let me finish reading this. In the name of my freedom, I choose to release, wait a minute, in the name of my true, I can't even get this out. In the name of my freedom, I choose your release because I recognize that we will be released together. I choose your release because only if I set you free can I be free. Isn't that a wonderful concept? Isn't that a wonderful truth? Isn't that a wonderful feeling to know that as I set you free, I'm free? You guys, it is amazing because so much of what we do is all about attack and our attack thoughts. So much about exclusion rather than inclusion. So much about this fear concept that we've set up for ourselves. All of this stuff. And when we start to see that that is not the truth, when we start to see that that love is, it's just free and it's out here. Now I know that I was supposed to read something else to you. I'm getting so close in my time. And I'm like this happy-go-lucky, happy learner, happy whatever. I'm like the happy learner, right? I'm just like doodling along and not saying what I'm supposed to say. Okay, so I got that one. And let me see, is there another one I was supposed to read to you? Probably not. I guess if it's not coming to me, um, then I guess I'm not supposed to give it to you. So, yeah, so you guys, I am just awed about and by all of this stuff. So it is just, it's so wonderful when we know that we're all here and we're all loving and we're just reminding each other to love. Okay, so this is such a blessing. Thank you, thank you. I'm so glad that you are there. I'm unhappy whenever I choose sacrifice. Absolutely. Make this different by making it all the same. Oh yeah, that is so wonderful. Make this different by making it all the same. You guys, I'm just so overwhelmed sometimes by how wonderful everything comes together and how I can sit down in this seat and totally not know what the heck I'm supposed to talk about, and then be flooded with more than I have time to say. And I know that Baron Hadid comes up after me, and I see him waiting in the wings. But I am just so awed by how this works. You guys, you are that light that is out there in the midst of the darkness, whether or not you choose to accept that assignment or not. That is what you are. And until you do, we'll be waiting on you, so to speak, because this is actually where you're supposed to be. I mean, this is what you are supposed to do. All are called. Few answered. Few do answer. But so what? As long as you hear it, as long as you know, we'll be there, and that means I gotta go. All right, you guys. Thank you for being here. I love you. Thank you. Hey, Barrett. Hey, Barrett. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time. All right, so let me stop this. I'm turning back over to you. All right.